Cooley Dam. This big. So do we need a dream about using nuclear energy? No. You got to decide you want to go somewhere. Makes a great upper stage. This is nuclear fission. These tests were run in the late 1960s. Not by some university, with a few guys in the publish or perish business, by industrial groups. This one was built by Los Alamos. A lot of work went on, a lot of money was spent, a lot of good people's work was involved. When I spoke to the Los Alamos section of the American Nuclear Society, we had 500 people for my talk, and there were no nasty questions. And the title of the talk was Flying Saucers Are Real. And Westinghouse paid to send me out there to speak to that group, knowingly. That's from a little distance. This is out at the nuclear test site. That's the plume when the hydrogen goes in and burns. Now, what's really exciting, now, we Earthlings are a peculiar group. We didn't even know that there were such things as neutrons until 1932. They've been around for billions of years, but we didn't know about it because we were ignorant. Without neutrons, it's hard to have a nuclear chain reaction. The first fission was, for proof of fission, it was 1938 or so, 1939. First multiplying assembly, nuclear chain reaction, was 1942. First atom bomb was 1945. Now, people all know the words atom bomb, nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction, but do they really put a face to it? Well, let me give you a face. In World War II, a big bomb was a 10-ton blockbuster. Dropped from a B-29, about yay big. 10 tons of TNT, the energy was released. The first atomic bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and before that at Trinity Site in New Mexico a couple of weeks, we're talking about the equivalent energy release of 15,000 tons of TNT. From 10 to 15,000. Now, we figured out how the sun works in 1938, theoretically, of course. Nuclear fusion. And being the kind of citizens of the universe that we are, we put it to use. And in 1952, we tested our first hydrogen bomb, H-bomb. That's a word you've probably heard, but let me give you some perspective. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we're talking about 15,000 tons of TNT equivalent in one bomb dropped from an airplane. The first H-bomb, which produced a 3-mile wide fireball in 1952, produced as much energy as exploding 10 million tons of TNT. So within roughly 10 years, we went from 10 tons to 15,000 tons to 10 million tons, still in one weapon. Now the Russians outdid us. A few years later, they dropped one that had the energy equivalent of 57 million tons of TNT. If you drop that in the middle of New Jersey, you'd start fires from New York to Philadelphia. Some people would say that's not a bad idea, having grown up in New Jersey. But you talk about technological progress. Now, here's the kicker. We know how to use energy for nuclear energy for things other than blowing things up. That's where the money is gone. That's where the effort, the Cold War, you know. There are thousands of nuclear warheads on this planet. One of the remarkable things of the post-war era is that nobody has used one of these in anger since Nagasaki. That's truly remarkable. Now, but how about using it for propulsion? Well, I just showed you some fission nuclear systems. Those rockets out in the desert there, rocket engines. But how about a fusion system? What's the advantage of fusion? If you use the right stuff in the right way, kick particles out the back end of a rocket that have 10 million times as much energy per particle as they can get in a dumb old chemical rocket. 10 million times. Now, anybody who's paid any attention to this knows this, but you'd think from the astronomer's attitude that we're stuck with chemical rockets. I worked on a program looking at fusion rockets back in 1962. Papers were published. 1962. It's almost 50 years ago. That's how long we've come. First airplane in 1903. First nuclear explosion in 1945. And we know how to build fusion rockets if you want to spend the money. Again, it doesn't take 6 professors. It might take the equivalent of 6,000 people working on a project. These are technically complex things. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to have a lot of smart people and spend a lot of money. Now, if I wanted to go to the stars, I'd want to use nuclear fusion. The nice thing is that the stuff we use, isotopes of hydrogen and helium, are the 2 most abundant elements in the universe. Everywhere you go, you're going to find hydrogen and helium. You're not going to find uranium, incidentally. Only in the heavy planets like Earth. I don't know whether you know this or not, but the Earth is the densest planet in the solar system. I don't mean the people, that's probably true too, but a cubic foot of Earth weighs more than a cubic foot of any other planet in our solar system. That means there are more heavy metals. Osmium, rhenium, uranium, gold, tungsten, a bunch of these guys. You think lead's heavy? Osmium is twice as dense as lead. And you know what uranium was used for 100 years ago? Yellow glaze for dinner table plates. It's illegal now. But I mean, that shows you there were things here we didn't know were very important. And there's a whole bunch of others, and I talk about that in one of my books. But now, if you were an alien, I don't know, some of you may be for all I know, but if you were an alien, wouldn't you want to pay attention to a society that demonstrated how much it cares for its people by, in one war, killing 50 million of them? We Earthlings did that in World War II. We destroyed 1,700 cities. And then you find that civilization has developed nuclear weapons and fusion weapons. Wouldn't you want to quarantine them? I mean, would you want to let idiots like that off the planet? Taking their brand of friendship out there? I don't think so. But we're told anybody coming here would send a signal first. Using our technology. Analog or digital, AM or FM. You know, how utterly ridiculous. But just keep this in mind. One bomb, the equivalent of 50 million tons of TNT. And 1 pound would make a bad mess up here. This is a planet on which this year we will spend $1 trillion on things military, and on which every single day 30,000 children die needlessly of preventable disease or starvation.